In a few seconds, it'll all be over. Time for glory!
Warden is a tough, tenacious brawler with a technique for alchemy and fighting the supernatural. Opening fights with either a binding word or a disrupting alchemical flask, Warden dashes into the fight to brawl at close range, utilizing his willpower for protection. In desperate situations, Warden can trigger his last stand, damaging and stealing life from all foes in front of him. We know Warden's backstory from A Fate's Tale in-game, which states, "Most people think the supernatural came into the world 50 years ago. They're wrong. Its presence shaped folklore for generations. And as long as there have been people afraid of the shadows, there have been those who dedicated their lives to fighting in them." Coming from a lineage of militant alchemists, Warden's family always trained for the day they would have to stave off a mystic apocalypse. But as time passed, the importance of this lesson faded. What was once viewed as a sincere warning slowly morphed into being perceived as amusing anecdotes told by their superstitious grandparents. When the portal opened in Central Park, Warden's parents realized not only was everything they were told true, but they were also unprepared. Refusing to let the next generation fall asleep on the job, Warden was trained since birth to be a supernatural killing machine with one purpose: stopping the patrons from ever entering our world. Warden's one alchemical flask throws a flask that damages, slows movement, and reduces the weapon damage of enemies that it hits. The flask is a straightforward cocktail toss that debuffs enemies, and there is primarily 3 ways you should focus on using it. First way is you should use this to poke in lane. Every time it is up, you should look to throw it to add damage and pressure to your opponent. The second way is that you should immediately use this after your slowing hex and binding word combo. This helps to reduce the enemy's stamina and slow them down to make it easier for binding word to go off. The third way is once you have Quicksilver reload on your 1, you'll want to use this to reset your ammo count in the midst of a fight or after dumping all of your bullets into a jungle game. Warden's 2 willpower buffs Warden with a spirit shield that gives him bonus movement speed. Willpower is a simple buff to your character. Many players will recognize that this will make you faster, but many also don't use this properly for its incredible spirit shield stat as well. If you know you are going to take spirit damage from an ability, you should press this in lane to negate that damage. This works great for Infernus's Burn, Mirage's Mark, Pocket's Affliction, and many others. And later in the game, this could be really beefy. I see a lot of Warden players popping this on the way to a fight as they rotate from one lane to the other, popping Willpower, Fleetfoot, Divine Barrier, and all of those items that make you run faster, which feels really cool as you turn into an F1 race car diving into your opponents for a gank. However, you should save this ability to be used last, just before you enter the fight, as that beefy 400 plus shield only lasts for 7 seconds, and if you use it to rotate, you won't have that extra defensive stat to protect you from the initial attacks. Spirit Shield stat synergy is also a big reason that I like to build into shield defensive kit focus, and I'll touch more on that in the build section. Warden's 3 binding word places a cursed timer on the enemy hero, showing a red circle that the enemy must run to move out of within a short time to escape. If they do not move out of the circle in time, they will be damaged and immobilized from There are hero abilities that counter and negate this effect if timed well. For instance, Dynamo can Quantum Entanglement travel, when this would trap him or his teammate. Viscus can Goo Cube, Ivy can Stone Form, Yamato can transform with her ults, etc. But this doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it on them. As with Slowing Hex, it's still always worth it to force them into a corner where they have to use it to escape. Binding Word is the most impactful part of Warden's kit, and there's a whole strategy around his build that focuses on this that I'll discuss more in the combo section of the video. Warden's 4 Last Stand is his ultimate ability, which after a short channel sends pulsing damage in front of Warden that heals him based on the damage done. Last Stand is an incredibly strong ultimate ability that makes Warden nearly invincible with the amount of healing it does on multiple targets. The channel, however, is a huge downside. It forces players to plan out the ult more effectively or try to duck away in a fight to pop it. The easiest ways to cheat this channel is to use it off the zipline when approaching a fight, after using Majestic Leap as you fly in, or tucked away to the side of a fight before it breaks out. You should never pop this in the middle of a fight. After its tier 3 upgrade, you get plus 80% bullet resist and spirit resist while channeling, which may help you survive that 2-second channel, but trust me, any target that stands still for this long in a fight is going to get melted. Enemies can also apply any crowd control effect like stun or sleep to stop your channel. Another effective way to use this is to duck out of a fight and around a corner, and then use the channel while your enemies cannot see you or damage you. Here is the leveling path for my builds Swish Warden Gun and Swish Warden Spirit, which focus on the 2 trees of damage for Warden.
I have been chosen. Farewell, my friends. I go on to a better place.
Warden has a lot of build variety. There's gun-focused builds that melt enemies, there's spirit-focused builds that will make your last stand monstrous, and there's a few meme builds that will make your enemy's head spin. I'm going to start with the defensive kit, since as a frontline character, this is important for the success of Warden players. Generally, you want to focus your defensive playstyles on barrier shields and or armors. Barrier shields work great with Warden's kit, as you start with combat barrier giving you more damage, while you have a shield active, and then build reactive if there's lots of stuns on the enemy team, and enchanters, which synergizes really well with willpower. Your core defensive item here is Veilwalker. This whole kit synergizes really well, giving you beefy 600 plus bullet and spirit shields, allowing you to push in for damage and then disengage to find a cosmic veil to run through and instantly heal those shields back up. I generally build towards shields if I'm winning. Armors reduce a percentage of either bullet or spirit damage, which is fairly straightforward defensive enhancement. This will not give you much beneficial offensive additions though, but if you're struggling in fights and finding a cosmic veil is difficult for you, I would focus on the armor builds. So let's start with the gun build. This is my Warden gun build called Swish Warden Gun in game. Warden's gun build is very straightforward. I usually start with highly velocity mag to help with confirming souls, close quarters, and ammo scavenger to start scaling early and building a lead. Enduring spirit, extra regen, sprint boots, and extra health are always my early defensive core items. Your early 1250 rush items are almost always going to be slowing hex, which builds from enduring spirit and is very helpful to secure binding word kills. Quicksilver reload should go on your 1 alchemical flask, and you can pick up Fleetfoot, Bullet Shredder Resist, and Berserker. Defensively, in this tier you can choose between going towards barriers and getting reactive in combat, or at this point you can build armors if you're losing. I wouldn't advise going bullet lifesteal until you round out this build with better gun items. Divine Barrier is also a good choice in this tier, but if you prefer passive items, it's less to think about and is really only good after you already have combat barrier. Your next core items are going to be when you peak in damage, with Burst Fire and Frenzy giving you insane fire rate and survivability. Frenzy was just nerfed this week, but I honestly think it's still grossly overtuned and should be your first big boy item. You should next look to either build Hunter's Aura or Heroic Aura, not both. Heroic is better for team fights, but Hunter's is also very strong and is a passive. Damage should be insane at this point, so you'll want to focus on defensive again and get Veilwalker if you're going for barriers or improved armors. And always build Fortitude no matter what, because that item is great. You should upgrade to Point Blank and Pristine Emblem and build towards Leash. Crippling Headshot is a very good item, especially if no one in your team already has it. And also you can go for Vampiric Burst or Silencer as your last big orange items. I will also upgrade my purple slots to items like Superior Duration and Improved Reach on 4, Last Stand later in the game, but Slowing Hex, Quicksilver Reload, and Bullet Shredder are very strong items to keep in their slots throughout the game. Spirit build on Warden is completely different, while also very fun and explosive to use. I find Gun to be more reliable, so I won't spend too much time on this, but here's my build for Spirit on Warden called Swish Warden Spirit in game. Basically, you replace Close Quarters with Hollow Point Ward early on and get Mystic Burst and Mystic Reach as well. You should get Enchanter's Barrier first instead of Combat Barrier and focus on getting that upgraded plus 50 damage on Alchemical Flask to poke heavily in lane. Majestic Leap is a great part of the kit to initiate fights by flying through the air during your ult to channel for Last Stand and landing ready for the fight. Surge of Power on 1 or 4 adds a lot of damage and power to the build as well. You should always get Kinetic Dash into Arcane Surge and use it just before leaping and ulting into the air and land with the maximum damage potential. Late game items like Divinor's Kevlar, Leech, and Spiritual Overflow will help you close out games and have devastating last stand damage, output, and survivability. My favorite meme build on Warden is the Echo Shard Binding Word combo. No one ever expects it, and the visual clutter of having 2 red circles to run out of in a short period of time often confuses enemies into very silly, easy kills.
Except my arm has really been bothering me lately.
Oh no, Dad!
Oh yeah, it's becoming a claw! Nothing can stop the claw!
This combo is simple. Engage with Slowing Hex followed by Binding Word as close to the same time as you can, and then throw an alchemical flask on them to reduce their stamina and start shooting them to slow them. If all that works out perfectly, the Binding Word will go off, they'll be trapped by the claw, and you'll get an easy kill. If you have Last Stand, you can use this before a fight, off the zipline to cheat the channel, or slam it in the middle of the fight, but only at tier 3. The most important part of the combo with Warden is forcing your opponent to get trapped by Binding Word. The claw is incredibly strong, and almost a guaranteed kill in a lane with a duo or later in the game. Any good player will try everything to play around this and get out of the circle to prevent getting trapped. Your primary job and priority is to make this as hard as possible by timing it correctly and using it in combination with other items and abilities. Timing is crucial with this ability combo. While in lane, you can use this on CD and pray for your opponent to blunder and get trapped, but that generally won't happen unless you take advantage of his mistakes and force them into a corner. You should always make sure to mind their stamina. If the enemy uses a lot of stamina to dash jump into a fight or back and forth between enemy minions, it's a good bet he won't have a lot left to get out of the area. With Slowing Hex, stamina is the best way to get out of an area. If they don't have stamina or you can reduce it with Alchemical Flask, it makes this even harder for them to run away. Additionally, low ground is best ground. Casting Binding Word on an enemy who's on height gives them the advantage of using their stamina to roll to a staircase or off an edge that will help maintain their speed better. If they are lower, they might have to use extra stamina to mantle or double jump, which makes it even harder for them to get away. And lastly, don't be too predictable. Any decent player you are laning against will become familiar with how to get out of Binding Word every time you use it. Just like a bebop hook, there's kind of a body language you give off when your character is looking to use this combo on someone. Avoid this by coming in from the side of a fight or holding the ability on occasion until the fight's already broken out to catch them off guard. Let's talk about some item and ability combos that work great with Binding Word. The most obvious is Slowing Hex. Use it the instant before you cast Binding Word. It'll slow them for 20% for 3 seconds, reduce their dash distance by 30%, and prevent heroes from using movement abilities. This stops Infernus from flame dashing, Flash from grappling, and these 2 annoying snipers from flying, Dynamo from teleporting, and is especially strong on Abrams and Shiv as it stops both their dash ability and their ultimate. Removing these abilities can really catch people off guard as they panic smash their movement buttons in vain and get caught by the claw and die. It is very satisfying. Cold Front is great in spirit builds and slows by double the amount at 40%. No removal of abilities though, and you have to be much closer. Knockdown can be a fun combo if you time it well. Cast Knockdown on the opponent and Binding Word half a second later, and they'll have to sit through the entire stun animation and have much less time to get out, almost guaranteeing that the claw gets them. Communication and coordination are your most dangerous tools, and Warden should almost always look to duo lane, as Binding Word is incredibly strong with many hero ability combos. Talk to your duo about when you will go for the claw, and ask them to use their abilities shortly before or after to maximize chances of trapping and killing enemies. Vindicta's stake ability is by far the most dangerous combo. It snares them to the ground for the entire duration where they should be leaving the area, and then the claw snares them again for another 3 seconds. This almost guarantees a kill, always. McGinnis's wall is also great at cutting off the opponent's initial escape direction behind them, and can be used to cut off a duo and jump on them in a 2v1 while they're stuck. Stuns, knockups, and forced position changes are part of almost every character's kit, so work with your teammate to lock down the enemy together.
I'm outside watching.
Warden's above.
Warden.
See up? Raj.
No. Wait. Wait.
They stole it. I've gone over a lot of techniques that will help make Warden deadly, but I'll summarize the most important 3 here. 1. Force unfavorable binding ward scenarios. Do everything you can to get this off, and it's a guaranteed kill. I just went over this in combos, but make sure you use item and team ability combos to maximize the power of this move. Number 2, cheat your last stand channel. You should channel off to the side before a battle, after dropping off a zipline, or during Majestic Leap, or dash jump so you're not sitting in the open and getting headshot for 2 full seconds. My third tip is to chase often but don't overextend. Warden is almost always faster than his opponents, so run down enemies leaving fights that they are losing. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching, and check out some of my other videos. Also, leave a comment below if you'd like to see a specific character guide or want to chat. I'll respond to all comments. Thanks and GG's.